Have you ever heard a story so unbelievable, so strange, that you just weren't sure if it was true or just a tall tale?
Hmm.
Well, today we are diving into one of those stories,
Okay.
the Greenbrier ghost.
Oh, yeah.
It's a case that gripped West Virginia in the late 1800s, blending true crime with the supernatural
Yeah.
and leaving us to question
Right.
where truth ends
Yeah.
and legend begins.
What's fascinating about this case is that it's not just about alleged hauntings.
Yeah.
It delves into the complexities of historical accounts,
Yeah.
the power of perception,
Uh-huh.
and ultimately the pursuit of justice in a time when women's voices often went unheard.
Absolutely. And it all starts with a man named Edward Trout.
Hmm.
Shoe.
Okay.
A figure shrouded in mystery and controversy.
Right.
To understand this story,
Uh-huh.
we need to understand Trout's past,
Yeah.
particularly his troubled relationships with women,
Okay.
even before he met Zona Heaster,
Hmm.
the woman who would become the Greenbrier ghost.
Right.
He had a reputation for being well less than a gentleman.
His first marriage ended in divorce amidst allegations of abuse.
Mhm.
In fact, things got so bad that a group of teenagers took it upon themselves to confront Trout,
Oh,
dunking
wow.
him in freezing water
Yeah.
as a form of vigilante justice.
Wow.
Oh.
A rather extreme example of community intervention, wouldn't you say?
It certainly speaks volumes about how the community perceived him.
Right.
And then there's the mysterious death of his second wife,
Uh-huh.
Lucy.
Okay.
Officially, it was attributed to a fall,
Mm.
but whispers circulated, questioning whether it was truly an accident.
Yeah.
So by the time Trout meets Zona in 1896,
Hmm.
he already has a rather unsettling past.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And their whirlwind romance culminates in a wedding ceremony,
Yeah.
filled with peculiar events that seem almost like ominous foreshadowing.
Okay.
For example, Trout was inexplicably late.
Oh, wow.
There were issues with the marriage license,
Hmm.
and the minister initially refused to perform the ceremony because of late hour and Zona's young age.
Really?
It's almost like something out of a Gothic novel.
Right.
A frantic minister waiting for hours, a young bride left wondering about her groom's whereabouts.
And despite the minister's reservations,
Yeah.
they managed to get married the very next day in another town.
Wow.
It's as if they were determined to marry,
Right.
regardless of the obstacles.
Mhm.
Their marriage, however, was short-lived.
Hmm.
Just a couple of months later, in January of 1897, tragedy struck.
Yep.
Zona fell ill,
Good.
and while the local physician, Dr. George Knapp,
Uh-huh.
made regular visits,
Mm.
her condition worsened.
And here's where things take a dark turn.
Okay.
Trout repeatedly asked a young boy named Anderson Jones to come help Zona.
Hmm.
Despite the boy having other chores to do,
Right.
Anderson eventually arrived at the shoe home
Yeah.
and made a chilling discovery.
Oh.
He found Zona's lifeless body lying on the floor, cold to the touch.
Anderson's account of that day is crucial to understanding the events
Right.
leading up to Zona's death. He described seeing blood on the porch
Oh my
and
goodness.
finding the doors unlocked, immediately sensing something was wrong.
He went inside.
He followed a trail of blood inside
Wow.
and found Zona.
Oh my gosh.
He ran to tell his mother
Okay.
and then found Trout at the blacksmith shop to deliver the news.
So he left the house to go find Trout.
Upon hearing the news, Trout rushed home.
Hmm.
By the time Anderson and Dr. Knapp arrived,
Okay.
Trout had dressed Zona in a high-collared dress and scarf
Real
and was cradling her body on the bed, refusing to let go.
That's strange.
Dr. Knapp, after a brief examination,
Yeah.
declared that Zona died of everlasting faint,
Oh.
a term used back then for what we now understand as heart failure.
Okay.
However, Zona's mother, Mary Jane Hester,
Hmm.
refused to believe her seemingly healthy daughter
Yeah.
could have simply died from a weak heart.
Mary Jane Hester's unwavering belief that something more sinister was at play
Mm.
is a key turning point in this case.
Right.
She was a strong-willed woman
Yeah.
who refused to accept the official explanation
Mhm.
and instead clung to a mother's intuition
Right.
that something was terribly wrong.
And that's where the story takes on its supernatural twist.
Okay.
Mary Jane claimed that Zona's spirit visited her
Oh, wow.
in a series of vivid dreams,
Mhm.
revealing the true cause of her death.
What did she say?
She said Zona told her that Trout had broken her neck in a fit of rage.
Wow.
These alleged ghostly visitations become central to the narrative,
Oh.
while many initially dismissed them as grief-induced delusions.
Right.
Mary Jane's conviction starts to sway some members of the community.
It must have taken immense courage for Mary Jane to speak out, especially in a time when women's voices were often disregarded.
Right.
But she persisted,
Uh-huh.
driven by her love for her daughter
Yeah.
and a burning desire for justice.
And that determination led her to take her claims to the authorities, setting in motion a chain of events that would unearth a shocking truth.
This is just the beginning of the Greenbrier ghost story.
Okay.
We'll delve deeper into Mary Jane's quest for justice, the exhumation of Zona's body, and the chilling truth that emerged.
Yeah.
You won't want to miss this.
Mary Jane didn't let the skepticism deter her. She started sharing her daughter's alleged revelations,
Right.
gradually convincing others, beginning with her brother-in-law, Johnson Heaster.
Okay.
It's a testament to the power of belief, isn't it? How even the seemingly outlandish can gain traction when presented with conviction.
It makes you think about how we form our own beliefs, especially when faced with something as extraordinary as a ghost story. Do you think people were more inclined to believe Mary Jane because she was a grieving mother?
It's certainly possible grief can be a powerful motivator.
Yeah.
And perhaps people saw her conviction as a testament to the depth of her love for Zona.
Right.
But it's also important to remember the time period. The late 1800s was a time when spiritualism was gaining popularity. And the idea of communicating with the dead wasn't as far-fetched as it might seem today.
That's a good point. The cultural context definitely plays a role in how we interpret events.
Right.
So with her brother-in-law on her side, Mary Jane takes her story to the prosecutor, John Preston.
And Preston, already aware of the rumors swirling around Zona's death,
Right.
takes their claims seriously.
No.
He decides to consult again with Dr. Knapp, the
Yeah.
physician who initially ruled Zona's death as everlasting faint.
So even the doctor starts having second thoughts. That's intriguing. What prompted him to reconsider his initial diagnosis?
Well, Dr. Knapp, reflecting on the circumstances surrounding Zona's death and hearing the growing unease in the community, began to doubt his initial assessment. He admitted he might have been too quick to accept Trout's explanation and hadn't examined Zona as thoroughly as he should have.
It's remarkable how a mother's intuition and the whispers of a community could lead a medical professional to question his own judgment.
Right.
It speaks to the power of collective doubt, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It highlights how even seemingly definitive pronouncements can be challenged when new information or perspectives come to light.
Yeah.
And in this case, that challenge led to a pivotal decision:
Okay.
the exhumation of Zona's body.
Could you imagine the scene, the somber atmosphere at the gravesite, the tension in the air as they raised the coffin?
It must have been a moment filled with both anticipation and dread.
Uh-huh.
And of course, Trout was there, still maintaining his innocence,
Wow.
claiming they would find nothing amiss.
His confidence is almost unnerving, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if he genuinely believed he would get away with it.
Or perhaps it was a calculated act.
Yeah.
A desperate attempt to maintain control as the walls were closing in around him.
The coffin was transported to a nearby schoolhouse for the autopsy.
Right?
And it's here that we encounter a detail that often gets overlooked.
Okay.
The presence of young Anderson Jones,
Yeah.
the boy who discovered Zona's body.
It's a detail that raises important questions about the sensitivities of the time.
Yeah.
Or perhaps the lack thereof to think that an 11-year-old boy, particularly a black child in the late 1800s, would be present at such a gruesome event is unsettling.
It's a stark reminder of how societal norms and perceptions have evolved over time.
Right.
Today, it would be unthinkable to expose a child to such a scene.
Precisely. It forces us to acknowledge the historical context and to view the events through a lens that considers the social dynamics of the time.
Okay.
But back to the autopsy itself. Dr. Knapp meticulously examined Zona's body,
Yeah.
and what he found sent shockwaves through the community.
Zona's neck was indeed broken, just as Mary Jane had claimed.
The confirmation of Mary Jane's claims was chilling. It validated her insistence that her daughter had communicated with her from beyond the grave,
Wow.
and shifted the focus squarely onto Trout. The ghost story, once dismissed as a grieving mother's delusion,
Right.
now had a chilling ring of truth.
Talk about a vindication for Mary Jane, but what about Trout? Did he finally confess?
Not at all. He was arrested and put on trial for Zona's murder. The trial became a major event covered extensively in local newspapers.
Okay.
Trout, representing himself, vehemently denied any wrongdoing.
Do you think he genuinely believed his own innocence, or was he a master manipulator trying to play the jury?
It's difficult to say for certain. His testimony was described as rambling and unconvincing.
Right.
He went on tangents, attempted to appeal to the jury's emotions, and maintained his deep love for his wife.
But the evidence against him was mounting. the broken neck.
Mm.
Mary Jane's compelling testimony about the ghostly revelations, the
Yeah.
suspicious circumstances surrounding Zona's death, it's hard to imagine how he could have mounted a convincing defense.
And the jury seemed to agree.
Yeah.
After a relatively short deliberation, they returned a guilty verdict, recommending life imprisonment for Trout.
Wow.
The community, however, was divided on the sentencing. Many believed the death penalty would have been more fitting considering the brutality of the crime.
So even with a conviction, there's still tension and debate what happened to Trout after the trial.
He was transported to the Moundsville Penitentiary to begin his life sentence. However, just 3 years later, he died in prison.
That's surprising. Even with a conviction, there's still so much tension.
Well, some historical accounts claim he actually died 8 years after his imprisonment.
Oh, really?
These discrepancies in the timeline highlight how easily historical narratives can be distorted over time.
Right.
It makes you wonder how much of the story we know today is entirely accurate and how much has been embellished or misremembered over the years.
It speaks to the importance of critical thinking, doesn't it? We can't just take historical accounts at face value. We need to consider the source, the potential biases, and the possibility of human error in the recording and retelling of events.
Absolutely. And this case, with its blend of fact and folklore,
Yeah.
is a perfect example of how history can become intertwined with legend.
So what about Mary Jane? How did she cope with the aftermath of the trial and Trout's death? Did she find peace?
There are varying accounts of Mary Jane's life after the trial. Some suggest she lived quietly, finding solace in the belief that justice had been served for her daughter.
Right.
Others paint a more melancholic picture, portraying her as forever haunted by the tragic events.
It's understandable that such a traumatic experience would leave a lasting impact.
Yeah.
But one thing is certain. Her courage in seeking justice for her daughter, even in the face of skepticism and social constraints, is undeniable. It's incredible how this case, even over a century later, still captivates and sparks debate. It really makes you wonder, was Mary Jane truly communicating with her daughter's spirit? Or did her grief manifest in a way that aligned with the truth?
That's the enduring mystery of the Greenbrier ghost, isn't it? It challenges our understanding of reality and what might lie beyond whether you believe in the paranormal or not. The fact that Zona's neck was indeed broken lends a chilling credence to Mary Jane's claims.
It's not every day that a mother's intuition, fueled by alleged ghostly messages, leads to a murder conviction. And the fact that the case hinges on both physical evidence and spectral testimony makes it all the more fascinating.
This case, with its blend of true crime and paranormal elements, has become a cornerstone of West Virginia folklore, a tale passed down through generations, whispered around campfires, and shared in hushed tones.
And like all good folklore, it's probably evolved over time with details embellished or altered to heighten the mystery and drama, which ironically echoes the very theme we've been discussing, the distortion of historical accounts.
Precisely, the Greenbrier ghost story reminds us that history is often a tapestry woven with threads of truth, speculation, and subjective interpretation. It encourages us to question the narratives we encounter, to dig deeper, and to consider multiple perspectives.
It's a fascinating case full of twists and turns that ultimately leaves us with more questions than answers. Was it truly a ghost seeking justice, or a grieving mother's intuition leading to the truth?
Right.
Did the community's collective suspicion influence the outcome of the trial? And how much of the story we know today is shaped by the passage of time and the power of storytelling?
Those are questions for each of us to ponder. The Greenbrier ghost remains an enigma, a story that blurs the lines between fact and folklore, leaving us to grapple with the complexities of history perception and the enduring power of belief.
Perhaps the most important takeaway from this deep dive isn't about ghosts or murder, but about the strength of the human spirit. Mary Jane's unwavering determination to seek justice for her daughter, even when faced with doubt and disbelief, is a testament to the power of love and the resilience of the human heart.
Well said. And while we may never know for certain whether Zona's spirit truly played a role in bringing her killer to justice, her story continues to resonate, reminding us to question, to seek truth, and to never underestimate the power of a mother's love.
If this deep dive into the Greenbrier ghost left you wanting to learn more, there are plenty of books, articles, and even other podcasts dedicated to exploring this fascinating case. We encourage you to delve deeper and form your own conclusions. And if this story has sparked any personal reflections, or if you have similar stories you'd like to share, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, sometimes the most captivating stories are those that leave us with a lingering sense of wonder.